Hey wonderful people, welcome to this episode of Balanced Takes, and I'm your host, Song Eternal. Today I'm going to be tackling this clip of Jack Dorsey.
This is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I think the free speech debate is a complete distraction right now.
Where he gets into some issues of free will, some of which I agree with, some of which I disagree.
Complete distraction.
But I'm going to be singling out some issues that pertain to you and your everyday life. And, well, how social media controls every aspect of it, especially if you're eternally online, like I am.
It's a school night. Turn off the computer, get to bed.
But before I dive in, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, so that you don't miss my latest content. And if you're on X, formerly Twitter, I'd appreciate your follow there as well. So let's get right into it. Jack Dorsey was speaking at the Oslo Freedom Forum Reclaim Democracy event, and there was this clip in particular which got tweeted out by Elon Musk, which got my attention.
The free speech debate is a complete distraction right now. I think the real debate should be about free will.
Which in my opinion, he's already starting out wrong, because how people speak is how they think. Or as Jordan Peterson said,
without free speech, there's no true thought. And then you might say, well, who cares whether or not we think? And I think the answer to that is fairly straightforward. I mean, you might think it's so obvious that it doesn't need explanation, but there are very few things that are so obvious they don't need explanation.
What social media does, in my opinion, is two things. One, it silos people to channels with similar interests, so that the only time people actually interact with others outside of those interests, things become, let's just say, less than ideal. As a result, the people in those channels think everyone outside is crazy. Well, you can see how that doesn't exactly make a good, healthy ecosystem. And you can understand quickly how the people who create these social media companies don't actually allow their children to get on them because they realize, well, they're dangerous.
I feel tremendous guilt. It literally is a point now where I think we have created tools that are ripping apart the social fabric of how society works.
Having people shunted into silos of influence and bubbles of thought is great because you get lots of people who are all like-minded with you, but when you have many different bubbles all in a place that don't interact with each other, you end up right back at a problem you could have had 300 years ago. Except now, the people you know are crazy because they live on the other side of the mountain.
We don't like your kind, out, now.
Now, everyone's interconnected, and you think, well, they're not just over on the other side of the mountain. They're everyone that doesn't think like me. They're all crazy. 2. It curates speech in what is and isn't acceptable. Now, sometimes this includes things like vulgarity, nudity, etc., but other times, it censors things that are perfectly acceptable, such as breaking news stories about a certain president's son's laptop, or names of certain political figures, which for some reason we can't speak on YouTube, or even trending topics like back in the day it was learn to code. Now, sometimes this is done intentionally at the behest of the creators of these social networks, and other times it just happens automatically as algorithms do their thing. So unless you are capable of sharing and receiving information freely, you don't truly have free will. It's not a distraction, as Jack said. It's the principal issue. If our society doesn't truly have freedom of speech or free exchange of information, then we can't actually begin to make rational choices when it comes to politics or any kind of areas of national or societal importance. But then he goes into this, and, well, I actually agree, and you should too.
And we feel it right now because we are being programmed. We're being programmed based on what we say we're interested in, and we are told through these discovery mechanisms what is interesting. And as we engage and interact with this content, the algorithm continues to build more and more of this bias.
That is correct, Commander.
Then he turns around and says this.
And I think the only answer to this is not to work harder at open sourcing algorithms or making them more explainable about what they're doing and why they're doing it, but to give people choice. Give people choice of what algorithm they want to use from a party that they trust. Give people choice to build their own algorithm that they can plug in on top of these networks and see what they want, and they can shift them out as well. And give people choice to have really a marketplace around an algorithm that you can choose.
And that's great and all, but when it comes down to it, people aren't going to use a function unless they've been given a naturally intuitive justification for using it. You want to know why all of our social media is dumbed down drivel? Drum roll, please. Because that's what people want.
Yep. Oh, okay.
They want the default settings. They want the bright white background and non-customizable options. You ever wonder why Facebook doesn't actually take the time to give you a whole lot of customization settings? 1, they don't care. 2, it costs them extra money. 3, what's the point when it can just make a generic mainstream app tell you can have dark mode like 10, 15 years after they've already launched the application, and then you'll be happy with that. Have you ever digged through your settings to figure out what you can change? Do you still use it on light mode? If you do, well, guess what? That's because you haven't actually customized your phone. Well, as much as it allow you to. And that's the thing. They haven't given you an actual reason why you should customize it. There's no reason. Maybe you're sitting there at night and you have the phone over your face and it's bright and it's shining in your face. You might think, wow, I'll just turn down the brightness. And that's as far as you went. You never thought to look up to see if the Facebook had a dark mode? But if you did, good on you, viewer. I'm proud of you. But most people aren't like that. They want sleek phones. They don't want any bells and whistles or doodads. They just want a thing with very few buttons, and it does whatever they want it to do very quickly, as easily as possible, no hassle. They want boring. They want mainstream. They don't want to think about anything. So if you give people choice, they aren't necessarily going to take it. And that's what a problem is with a lot of his ideas. Choices doesn't necessarily mean people will make the choice. That's one thing you have to understand about UI design. Now, I approach this from the aspect of a programmer, where when we design an app and we give the user choices, they have to be given in a way that the user actually has to naturally understand why he should choose that choice.
This is a square. Can you guess which spot that goes in?
The square.
That's right. It goes in the square hole.
Yes.
In fact, the application should drive them to want to make a certain choice and say, hey, I'm doing X. Why should I do Y? It should be naturally intuitive.
Up next, we have the arch.
The arch. The arch.
You guessed it.
The arch.
It goes in the square hole.
And that gets me to the primary issue I have with the entire talk. Because from what I understand, this is kind of the messenger is corrupt kind of issue, because Jack Dorsey knew all of these issues when he was at Twitter and eventually Blue Sky, which I think he eventually left, but he didn't do anything meaningful about them. Even now, he seeks to raise awareness on the problems of social media, but I think he fails to see the real issue. Think of this. He's like the really smart guy in the classroom who's able to think of all kinds of great ideas that would just help society, make everything better. But, you know, when you ask him one simple question, the entire thing falls apart. One might have an excellent idea, but unless they line up with practicality or human behavior or necessity, they're not really going to work. So here's a few things that I think at bare minimum, social media platforms absolutely should implement. And let me know what you think about them. 1. The ideal app should have design that informs the user on the front page of their profile or one click away what the algorithm thinks they are and what they are interested in. Now, Facebook actually has this. It's buried in some annoying place that no one's ever going to look or know exists. But it helps you, the person, be able to regulate themselves, if that's what you choose, and become more aware of, that's why I've gotten absolutely nothing but OnlyFans girls on my timeline. Because you see, as you browse and as you click this, like that, share this, the algorithm builds a profile of you, but without the ability to know what profile is being built of you, you won't actually realize what you're spending time on social media. You might think you're spending all your time looking at cat videos, but in reality, the algorithm might think that the 184 deep reply thread was the most important thing to you for the last month, and it was about politics. Now you're confused why everything's talking about Trump. So if you're able to see easily somewhere on your profile what the algorithm thinks you're interested in, you will actually have some feedback from the system naturally, and you'll be able to say, hey, no, I'm actually not interested in politics. I should probably pay more attention to cat videos, or maybe I'll click on that little pop-up or blurb that says what I'm interested in and just like say, delete politics as a line, and so it stops showing up in your feed completely.
Poof. Never there.
Imagine that, actually having responsive social media that doesn't just give you what you want, it actually says, hey, this is what I think you want. Is this correct?
Oh, thank you, like a butler.
2. The ideal app should give you the ability to rank choice who you want to follow. Now, Facebook used to do this, but then they just started ignoring the priorities of the users over whatever it is they do now. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, they implemented it, and it was this big hoopla about, oh, look, you can now, if you want to see this person very first in the beginning of the day, bam, you can see everything they post, and you can see it right on top. So I found a bunch of people I wanted to see things from immediately, and I put them all on top. And it was great. It worked for 3, maybe 4 months. Then after that, they start asking questions like, hey, do you still want to see posts from this person? Because you haven't paid attention to them in a while. And I'm like, obviously I have. They're on top of my feed. It's the first thing I see. So yes, I do want to see them. And I kept saying yes. And then eventually that little prompt just faded away.
My CPU, no! Where are you?
And now, I have no idea who I prioritized. I don't even know the functionality still exists. And frankly, I don't care. That requires me to open Facebook. Twitter, on the other hand, actually does a decent job at this. They have a For You tab, and they have a Following tab. And then they have the ability to, I think it might be premium only, but to customize special tabs. If you want to follow certain people and only follow them, you just swipe over to that tab you created of them, and bam, you can see literally only them in that feed. There's actually a really good profile I follow called OSINT Defender, I think it is. OSINT Defender. And it gives me lots of good information about wars that are going on all over the world. So all I do is swipe over to the war tab and swipe to that for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the morning, and I'm caught up. Easy. That's what every social media should do. Actually respect the user's decisions. Actually respect your choices. Because you spend your time on that app. They should respect you for it, instead of just using you as a commodity. 3. The ideal app should provide users with a tangible reason for caring about the algorithms they interface with. And it should be integral to the design.
Why should I care about any of this?
So Jack Dorsey spoke of a way to perhaps swap out algorithms or go to a marketplace where people make their own. So perhaps you go to Jerry's algorithm of Politics 2024. Perhaps you go to Tom and Sue's algorithm of I'm a boomer and I like vines.
Whatever you say, boomer. Okay, boomer.
Or perhaps you just want to have a special algorithm and a special tab that just focuses on gaming. But all the things, again, like I said earlier, are great, but the ideal app should provide users for a tangible reason for you to actually care about which algorithms you interface with. And it has to be integral to the design, so it's not somewhere shoved deep inside your settings. It's part of the entire purpose for using it. It's not just, hey, here's an app and you can kind of choose some things. No, choice should be central. Perhaps new users would be given the opportunity to switch algorithms on their feed every few days. So you know how sometimes when you sign up to some social media, like I think Pinterest does this, they say, hey, what kind of things are you interested in? And you go, oh, I want to see cakes, cosplays, and popcorn. And they go, wow, those are cool things. And then you never see that again.
Gone. Reduced to atoms.
Imagine if you actually had that be a recurring ability. So you tell it what you want, or you tell it what kind of things you want to focus on, or you tell which algorithms you prefer, whatnot, or which kind of things you're interested in. You pay attention for a few days, you find out if you actually like that, and if you do, you keep it. If you don't, you say, hey, let's swap it out to something else to see what else I like. Actually make choice part of the core feature. And then perhaps, after you've had the ability to see a few algorithms and to see what you do and don't like, they introduce you to the marketplace. And then on the marketplace, you're able to see what people's custom algorithms are, or custom preferences, or custom priorities, or custom feeds, so that you can then choose from what people decide they liked. So if your friends like this one algorithm or this prioritization over here, you can just switch to theirs and see all the same things they're seeing. Because why not? But in the end, like I said, unless you actually present a positive reason why a user should care, they're not going to. You're not going to. And I honestly think some of these things will actually allow people more opportunity to have more of their own choice. I think it'll allow you to be able to make social media what you want it to be. Perhaps you don't actually want to see what everyone else thinks. So be it. Maybe you don't care about what people on the other side of aisle politics think.
So be it.
You don't ever have to see those people. Congratulations. You want to be exposed to them. Or perhaps you're someone who wants a plethora of opinions on your social media. Well, instead of just being siloed around by an algorithm you have no control over, this would ideally allow you to be able to actually customize your feed, or actually customize the algorithm that you're interfacing with, and perhaps have a better experience. Because right now, there are a lot of users who are frankly toxic, who you have to deal with every day. And maybe they should just be in a bubble talking to each other. Because they ruin the experience for everyone else. But with all this talk about algorithms and social media and who is right and wrong and how to make the best social media app, the ultimate and best solution will always be self-control. Social media won't influence you, can't influence you. If you set apart some time every week or every month to spend with your family, put time gating controls on your phone so you know if you spent too much time on Facebook or TikTok. Or silence your phone altogether so you won't be a slave to notification ding or buzz or whatever cute sound effects teenagers are using these days. Or perhaps just take Instagram, just take it off the front screen.
Bye-bye. Have fun.
So when you open your phone, you don't see it immediately. You don't have the compulsion to immediately click because you see 54 notifications on it. And maybe it is hypocritical for me to say this, because I'm on social media a lot. But honestly, the best place for most people is dealing with family, community, and local politics, where issues are far more understandable and grounded, because each individual focusing on his or her own circle is actually what's better for society. And honestly, all these social media apps can often take over far more of our lives than we should allow. In other words, call your mom, hug a baby, touch grass. But hey, if you liked that episode, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of it, and follow me on X, formerly Twitter, and well, I'll see you again next time. Bye!